Ora abbiamo in linea via Zoom Claire Clutterham, che è la candidata laburista per il seggio di Sturt. Buon pomeriggio. Thank you, Claire, for coming on to Radio Italia 1 Adelaide.
Thank you very much, Antonio, for having me. It's great to be here.
As I've been saying consistently, Sturt, together with Boothby, is the most marginal seat in South Australia, possibly the only one that's really in play, and therefore is gathering a lot of attention by the major parties. So hence I've been trying to talk to all the candidates. And let's start with, at the national level, what does Labor have to offer? I've seen Anthony Albanese flash his Medicare card around quite a bit. What's the significance of that?
Certainly. So he's definitely been flashing it, and he's been flashing it to the cameras and to the voting public to illustrate Labor's plan for a stronger Medicare. So I guess I'd probably like to talk about the three parts to that. So the $500 million investment, first of all, into women's health. So Labor has been listening to the women of Australia. There'll be more endometriosis and pelvic pain clinics, more medication for women, which is a really great thing for the women of Australia. And then the plan is for 9 out of 10 visits to the GP to be bulk billed by 2030. So that's where you walk up with your Medicare card, and the service that you receive from your general practitioner is bulk billed if your general practitioner chooses to do that. So that's the real significance. And that's a huge investment. It's the biggest investment in Medicare in its 41-year history. And then the other part to that is also Labor has announced a record investment in relation to mental health centres. So the people of Sturt should know that there will be one constructed in the electorate at Burnside. And again, that is a service where all you'll need is your Medicare card. So there's those are the first three parts to it, and then finally, underpinning all of this is an investment in training more doctors and nurses, because we can't have all these clinics if we don't have the appropriately qualified personnel to staff them and provide that service. So that is a really important part of the Albanese Labor government's investment into Medicare. Is more training, more places for medical professionals.
Yes, actually, you just mentioned 41 years of history. So that takes us back to the Hawke government in 1986. And
41, 40, yep, something like that.
And if I remember correctly, the health minister was Neil Blewett, Dr. Neil Blewett, South Australian at the time.
That is an old name from the past.
Yes. And I noticed just recently, I saw, talking about Medicare and the Albanese government, the Prime Minister visited your electorate. That's one of the signs of how significant is the electorate.
Yep, he did. He's been here a few times, but I think last Monday was actually really a special one for us here in Sturt. He went out to Holden Hill and visited Nonna's Cucina. So Nonna's Cucina for 2.5 decades has been providing home-cooked meals for elderly residents and members of the Italian community. And I have struck up a terrific relationship with Nonna's. And Tony, if you could just let me tell the story of how that happened. It's a really nice example of community, grassroots, homegrown relationships. So I was door knocking one day, and I came across a gentleman who had just finished a fishing trip, and he was unloading his van, and it was a Nonna's Cucina van. And I said to him, tell me about your business. And it was Steph, the head chef. And we struck up a friendship just on the basis of, me coming across him in the street. And I went to the opening of Nonna's Cucina at Holden Hill and started to volunteer for the organisation, doing meal delivery for a few hours every month. And I've really gotten to know the staff, and it's a fantastic organisation that doesn't just provide meals. It provides, company and welfare checks for elderly residents. So it's a great story of how I met them and then was able to advocate for them. And the re-elected Albanese Labor government will invest $95,000 into that business to just help them finish off the move to Holden Hill, which is a much bigger and newer premises. And so it was great to have PM come along, and he was put to work by the lovely Rosa. And she thought his technique with putting the veggie slice into the containers was top notch and offered him an apprenticeship. So that was good. Yeah.
Excellent. Yes, we had a conversation with Anthony Albanese years ago. He was then Opposition Minister for Transport and Infrastructure. And some very interesting insights into also how or why the electorate amongst, especially the younger people, is much more fractured than it had been in the past. And in fact, in your seat, now we have the Liberal sitting member, you as a Labor candidate, also a strong, or a Greens candidate that had a strong result in the last state vote, the by-election, and an independent. So what do you think this is saying also about the seat of Sturt? What are the issues there?
Oh, in terms of the makeup of the candidate, I always just say the more the merrier. I think what's really important to a well-functioning democracy is having viable and alternate choice. And the people of Sturt certainly have that on this occasion. You've just mentioned, Antonio, the 4 probably highest profile candidates who have put their hand up for election this time. There's 7 on the ballot paper. And what I've been trying to do is get out and meet as many voters as I can, as many community sporting clubs and organisations as I can, and send the message that the best choice for Sturt is a Labor government, but also me as the candidate. So I'm coming from 20 years of working as a lawyer. I'm currently a partner at a law firm in town, so 20 years of business experience. I've worked around the world. I worked in the Middle East and Asia, which has given me a great perspective on people from all different backgrounds. A really fantastic experience being able to do that and bring those skills back over here. So look, the more the merrier, absolutely. Viable choice is so incredibly important to people. And what I'm doing is persuading them that the best choice for the 2025 federal election is to put a 1 in the box next to Labor in the House of Reps and also in the Senate. So you also asked about issues, Antonio, that are coming up across the electorate. So, you know, it is a very broad range of people living in Sturt. But one thing people have in common is that it's quite a highly educated electorate. So people are interested in what is happening in the education space. And this is one of the flagship, I guess, areas for Labor is education. We firmly believe that education lifts people, and we have made investments from all the way to early childhood education with the 3 days of available education for children, pay rises for early childhood educators, more investment in public schools, and then, of course, our fee-free TAFE initiative and wiping 20% off HECS debt. So education comes up every day for me when I'm door knocking and out in the community. A few others, healthcare, of course, comes up. People are interested in their health and the health of their children and the health of their parents. So the investment in women's health that I spoke about at the start of the segment has been very well received, as has the investment in Medicare. And I guess the other one that does come up a lot is climate. People in Sturt are interested in what's happening with our climate. A lot of the time, it's sort of people in the over 60 age group or people in the under 25 age group who are wondering what's going to happen to them. And then, you know, the elderly, kind of more elderly people are wondering what kind of planet we'll be leaving for our kids. So those discussions are happening on a daily basis as well.
Okay, so education and health are, let's say, and yes, so there's the human capital to a large extent of the country that you want to be investing in, and you talked about climate, and cost of living is something that seems to come up a lot at the national level. Can you, tell us what you're proposing, what Labor has to offer there?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and that comes up every day as well, in terms of, it's a bit of an umbrella issue, Antonio. So, how we spend our money and, what things cost across a really broad spectrum of things. But we have seen a tough 3 years, but we have seen a turnaround. So we have seen inflation coming down with a two in front of it. I think 2.4 was the latest quarterly results, which is progress. And then we've seen, so I think it was the first interest rate cut in a very long time recently. But in terms of helping families, it's a holistic approach that the Albanese Labor government takes. So we've had a series of tax cuts for every Australian taxpayer, which will be the top-up will also occur. That was recently announced. We've had a series of measures regarding energy bill relief, which are going to be extended by another 6 months, and then we'll need to look at that again. And then there's your other things like the pay rises for the lowest paid workers, because they are the ones who feel it. Cost of living affects us all, but it really affects you if you are a low income earner. And Labor, of course, is all about jobs and the worker, and will continue to fight for fair wages and wage increases for our lowest paid workers, all of which goes to cost of living. And I talked a bit before about education and healthcare. And obviously, the cost of healthcare is a big issue. And whatever we can do to ease that burden on families also forms part of the cost of living suite of measures. So one that I'm really proud of and really pleased that we are doing is from the 1st of January 2026, medicines that are on the pharmaceutical benefits scheme will be reduced to $25. So when we came to government, I think it was $42.60. It's steadily come down, and that makes a big difference for people that need to take regular medication. And again, it's another cost of living measure that the government is taking.
Yes, indeed. This is quite a broad range of policies, and it does feel like it's actually been well thought through. Okay, during the campaign, so we started off with it, at least in the polls, it appearing like it was going to be very, very tight. And I also follow the betting markets. I don't bet, but I follow the betting odds.
All right, you'll have to tell me what they are then.
They've been moving in the same direction as the polls, and favouring a bit more a Labor minority, maybe even the next favourite is Labor majority government. Why do you think has been a shift in the last couple of weeks?
In the last couple of weeks, yeah, you're quite right. There has been a really strong, momentum. The Prime Minister is an excellent campaigner. He's having a good campaign, and he's doing that by sending clear and concise and simple messages to the Australian public. He always said he would go to the election on his record, so the record of his government, and he is repeating that message about the measures that the government has taken to try and ease cost of living for families, which, as you point out, is what's coming up a lot. So as well as going to the election on his record, he's also had very strong messaging about the future, so building Australia's future. And that, again, involves cost of living measures, shoring up manufacturing here in the country, excuse me, and investment in jobs. And investment in jobs, Antonio, is absolutely critical for the future prosperity of this state and this country. And I think here in South Australia, we're very well placed from an economic prosperity perspective. We've got a massive opportunity before us with respect to meaningful, well-paid, secure long-term jobs in the defence industry. So my background, recent professional background, is in the defence industry. I worked for ASC and Boeing Defence Australia for a while. So it's an industry that I'm hugely supportive of. And I just love the fact we have this opportunity for kids who are in the early childhood education centres now. They're going to be our engineers of tomorrow. It's it's quite an exciting prospect for our state. And I guess for me, if I'm elected as the member for Sturt, I'll be doing whatever I can to keep that work here in South Australia, to work hand in glove with our Premier to make sure that those opportunities are here, because I'm sure you agree with me that South Australia is the best place on earth to live. And, we want to keep people here and really cement home that economic opportunity.
Yes, well, maybe like you've mentioned being in the Middle East. I'm one of these people who've left the state and the country and have turned back, partly, mostly for family reasons, but I have found it very satisfying professionally. So now let's introduce Claire a bit more. You've told us a little bit about your professional background. And so what you worked in intellectual property or?
I worked in... It was commercial dispute resolution, so litigation and arbitration. So that covers a range of different things like financial services, construction, general commercial. So, any kind of dispute or problem, that was my, that's my practice area. And I work, as I said, as a partner in a law firm in the city, and that's what we do. But I spent 8 years working in the Middle East on some really interesting deals and projects, and then half a year or so in Hong Kong on my way home, because the pull of Australia was, was ultimately too great, and I wanted to come back here, like you, similar for family reasons.
And so you spent some time in the defence sector. You said the ASC, Australian Submarine Corporation.
Right. You got it. That's right. Yeah. So I was Deputy General Counsel at that organisation. I think it was just under 5 years or so that I worked out at the shipyard, and loved it. It's a great group of people who are working out there, and I just love that you could drive down Victoria Road every day in Pelican Point and actually, see the submarine, see the ship that was being built. So, and the workers at that organisation are quite rightly very proud of the work that they're doing. You really got that sense when you're out of the shipyard.
Yes, I think several of the leadership there have gone through the INSEAD executive education things, which is where I did my MBA.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah,
it's quite a yes. And so,
I was going to say, well, like, yes? not just the boring professional stuff, but a bit about me. Personally as well. So I live in Sturt in Joslin, which is a suburb just next to Payneham, so just off of Payneham Road. And I live here with my husband Ben and my stepdaughter Neve, and we love it. So I'm a runner, so I love running, go for a daily run through Linear Park and the avenues. We do our shopping over at the avenues. You're so close to the city. It's such a great part of Adelaide, to live in. We're very lucky. And it's reasonably close to the airport as well. And I'm down at the airport a little bit as part of my role on the Royal Flying Doctor Service, South Australian Northern Territory. So I'm a board director for that organisation, which is probably, honestly, it's probably the most favourite thing that I do of all the things that I sort of have going on. It's such a wonderful organisation to be able to contribute to.
Yes, okay, that's interesting. So they're the sorts of things I was going to ask about next. So how did you get into politics then? How did this candidacy?
Yeah, great question. So a few years ago, gosh, it would have been maybe 2021. So I'm quite politically engaged and like to sort of always had an opinion on things, and I would always be sharing it. And one day my husband said to me, probably less politely than I would put it now, was, if you care so much about it, why don't you go and do something about it? And I thought, well, actually, you're right. So I ran my own little campaign and got elected to the Nord Payneham St Peter's Council as an elected member a few years ago. And then I had been a member of the Labor Party for a while and was like volunteering, how to vote cards, door knocking. I helped the now member for Dunstan, Cressida O'Hanlon, with her campaign, did some door knocking for Senator Mariel Smith, and just made some connections with some lovely people, and then got asked over a year ago whether I'd be interested in putting my hand up to run for Sturt. And, you know, of course, I was. It's such a terrific opportunity and such a privilege to be able to put your hand up and you know, let people know that you're there and you're wanting to be a strong and visible voice for them and to represent them. So it was a big decision to say yes, Antonio. It's very intense campaigning. It's pretty full on, and it affects, you know, all of the family. But I'm very lucky. I have such supportive and wonderful family who have been with me on this journey.
So, is there tell us, what would be a typical day for a candidate like you?
Yeah, okay. So today is the start of early voting.
Yep.
So today I have spent it at the Marden Shopping Centre, where there's quite a large early voting centre. So I started the day at Clemzig Interchange, talking to commuters on their way to work, and then headed to the early voting station at Marden. And I'm talking to you, and then I'm going to go to another early voting station at Myrtle Bank. But today is a little bit unusual because it's the start of early voting. So a typical day for me campaigning would be sort of an early start, normally at the Paradise or Clemzig Interchange, just to, you know, hand out some information about myself and meet people and be visible to the community. And then there has been an awful lot of door knocking. So you'd hear it from all the candidates. It's a lot of door knocking. So several hours every day, introducing yourself to people, really like getting to know their stories and getting to know what their issues are, and thinking about what you could possibly do to help them, and then, you know, to pass on that feedback, because we know that the best ideas come from the community and the people who are, you know, living in the community. So that is a massive part of campaigning. And then I might hit up a shopping centre, you know, to meet more people as they're going about their daily business, and then go and visit a community club or a sporting club, just to hear about what their plans are and understand what they do, how many members, what their issues are, things like that. And then, of course, there's a lot of email and telephone calls and correspondence to deal with as well. So it's quite varied, because you're meeting different people all the time. So I'm saying to you, it's a lot of door knocking. That's a lot of the same thing, but you're just meeting so many different people, and everyone has a unique story to tell, which is sort of what I love about campaigning.
Yes, indeed. Oh, well, I have to say, I've been saying best wishes to everyone, and if you get up, we'll be happy to speak to you regularly, or when we can in future.
Absolutely, would love it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm
that's
seeing
the plan. If I am elected, I'd love to be accepted. Yeah.
yeah, seeing a bit of fleece there. It's a bit of a colder day.
It's a bit of a cold day, yeah. So
Yes.
I just have a little nana rug on my lap.
Cool. Okay. Well, thank you for coming on to Radio Italia Una Adelaide, and as I said, best wishes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And can I just join with you and your listeners who may be feeling the loss of Pope Francis yesterday, and extend my sympathies to those who are mourning him.